Welcome to the FilmMania channel. The story begins when a former boxing champion from Warsaw arrives on the first death train to the newly opened concentration camp called Auschwitz. The movie begins with the message that its plot is based on true events. The main character, Tadeusz Pietrzykowski, standing in formation, remembers how he used to train in the yard of his house, honing his punches on a punching bag. His memories are abruptly interrupted. He is already standing on the grounds of the new Auschwitz camp. The Nazis are debriefing the new arrivals. Soon, an SS officer appears before the hungry and frightened prisoners and announces that they are the first batch of prisoners. They are instructed to rebuild the barracks in 3 months, after which, as enemies of the Third Reich, death awaits them. The officer declares that they are not human, and their way out of the camp is through the crematorium chimney. Tadeusz plunges back into his memories. In his memory, German soldiers drive up to his house. In the morning, after the first night in the barracks, the prisoners are sent to the quarry. Already on the first day, the first victims appear. Tadeusz picks up a piece of oilcloth from the body of a dead prisoner and wraps himself in it to escape the cold. At lunch, he sees a warden, also from among the prisoners, taking food from a young boy named Janek. But he prefers not to interfere. Later, while building a barbed wire fence, the prisoners discuss the possibility of escape. One of the experienced men begins to talk about his previous escapes, but he is suddenly hit on the head with a shovel by a German soldier, causing cackling from those around him. In the next scene, the prisoners fix a sign with the cynical inscription, "Labor liberates," over the camp gate. In the workshop, Janek, who has been left without lunch, recognizes in Tadeusz the famous boxer Teddy, a contender for the lightweight championship. However, Tadeusz himself prefers not to remember about his past. In the conditions of the camp, he is a powerless prisoner like the others. Later, Tadeusz takes the chair he has made to the commandant's house and, at the right moment, hides a few apples in his pocket. He gives one of them to Janek, but the latter shares the fruit with an elderly Pole, and Tadeusz is forced to give another apple. However, they do not manage to enjoy the loot. The commandant enters the carpenter's shop and discovers it missing. The prisoners are taken to the courtyard, where they are shot in front of their eyes. They are told to put apples on their heads. The commandant shoots at them, trying to impersonate William Tell, but is mistaken. The old man dies with a shot through his head. When Tadeusz's turn comes, instead of placing the apple, he takes a bite and chews it quietly, as if enjoying one last snack before his death. The German aims at him, but suddenly Janek begins to recite a passage from Schiller's poem about Tell. The boy's education impresses the commandant, and he decides to replace the execution with lashes. The officer is not worried that the documents list 5 Poles who have been shot. Their places will be taken by other prisoners. At night, while Tadeusz and Janek sleep on their stomachs, the Jews are taken to the gas chamber under the guise of a common bath. The prisoners' death screams are heard everywhere. During the evening shift, a collaborationist guard throws a piece of sausage on the ground for fun, forcing the hungry workers to fight over it. However, the fight ends quickly. Then, the warden lifts them to their feet and suggests that one of them hit the other as hard as he can. If the opponent falls, the one who hit him gets a piece of meat. The prisoners begin to take turns hitting each other, amusing the guards. The soldier tries to attack himself, but falls when Tadeusz deftly dodges. The guards then want to beat him up, but are stopped by another collaborator. He proposes a deal: arrange a duel between Tadeusz and one of the guards. If Tadeusz wins, he gets bread. If he loses, he can be bullied further. On the cleared area, the fight begins, which opens with the traditional welcoming gesture of fist bumping. At first, Tadeusz evades the blows, but then, with one apt move, makes his opponent bleed. The fight is instantly stopped, and he is awarded an extra ration. In the barracks, Tadeusz shares his food with the other prisoners, and a young man who reminds him of his son recounts to the others what happened. The next day, Tadeusz asks his sparring partner to help him get more food and medicine. To do so, they go to the commandant's office, where the collaborator introduces Tadeusz as an experienced boxer. The Germans already know who he is, as they have his dossier. Soon, the commandant organizes a boxing tournament among the prisoners to entertain the soldiers. After preparing the ring and handing out gloves, Tadeusz fights another prisoner for the amusement of the Germans who are placing bets. The Pole manages to win, which gives him the opportunity to move to a lighter job where he can train. He is also given increased rations and allowed to visit the outpatient clinic to treat his injuries. The doctor gives Tadeusz medicine for the Jewish block prisoners, as well as a pneumonia remedy for the teenager. In the evening, the officers are given a concert on a makeshift stage where the prisoners play musical instruments. To this music, Tadeusz is shown getting back into shape by practicing in the stables. Meanwhile, others continue to do hard labor, and the Nazis continue to send people to the gas chambers, leaving their bodies on the cold ground. One day, Tadeusz is visited by an officer who is fond of horseback riding. He notices that Tadeusz has put on weight due to his increased diet. However, the officer warns that sooner or later he will have to lose the fight, when he will become uninteresting to them. For this purpose, a large prisoner is brought into the camp who exceeds Tadeusz in weight. But thanks to his speed and experience, Tadeusz wins, delighting the spectators. In the barracks, he is greeted with joyful shouts, considering him a true hero. However, the commandant does not like the prisoner's growing popularity. Tadeusz himself thinks about stopping fighting, because in such conditions it is no longer a sport. But his victories become important for the other prisoners, giving them not only additional food, but also hope. During the next loading of Jews into the gas chamber, a girl from the infirmary is caught trying to sneak food to the Poles. She is brought to the line where an officer starts taunting her, threatening her with a gun and forcing her into line. But the girl snatches the gun and shoots the officer. The guards open fire, killing not only her but also many other Jews. All this is seen by Janek, who was in love with her. Later, Tadeusz witnesses a soldier nicknamed the Hammer, a former German champion, training on the prisoners lined up in front of him. The new opponent proves to be much stronger. The former German champion nicknamed the Hammer is able to knock out Tadeusz with one accurate punch. Nevertheless, Teddy challenges Tadeusz through the camp managers with a condition. If he wins, the boy Janek will be released. In the evening, they organize a spectacle for the staff and prisoners, a fight for the title of Auschwitz champion. From the guards performs Hammer, from the prisoners, Number 77, Tadeusz Teddy Pietrzykowski. Preparing for the fight, Tadeusz tries to find Janek with his eyes, but the boy is nowhere to be found. The fight begins. Despite the advantage in height and weight, Hammer cannot reach the nimble and agile Pole. However, in the heat of battle, the German manages to knock out one of the prisoners who served as a corner post. After a blow to the body, Tadeusz falls right in front of the German officers. Having collected himself, he dodges his opponent's blows, strikes the body, and finally reaches the enemy's head. At the end of the first round, the prisoners chant Teddy's name. A German officer gives Tadeusz water, but it is laced with a substance that causes dizziness. The boxer begins to storm off and misses a knockout punch from the hammer. The prisoners are lined up, and Janek is placed in front of Tadeusz, forcing them to fight. The man refuses, but the officers threaten to shoot them both. Tadeusz tells Janek to hit him, but the boy does not obey. A shot rings out. One of the guards kills Janek. Tadeusz, stunned by a blow with a rifle butt, is dragged to the shame pole, where he is undressed, hung by his arms, and has a sign with the inscription "Champion" hung around his neck. At night, he sees the prisoners being led to the gas chamber. Under their death cries, Tadeusz faints. In the morning, he is taken off the table and sent to the pits where the bodies are burned. Half naked, barely able to move his legs, he reaches the pits where the Germans burn the bodies of the dead. Descending into one of them, Tadeusz notices among the burnt bones an angel carved from wood, a gift from Janek, intended for the girl who had been shot earlier. Clutching the toy in his hand, Tadeusz finds the strength to get up and get out of the pit. At this time, for the entertainment of the high-ranking guests, a duel between the hammer and a random prisoner takes place in an improvised ring. The inexperienced prisoner falls after the first blow, and the Germans enjoy watching his beating. In the midst of the brutal spectacle, Tadeusz enters the ring. His burned, bloody, and exhausted appearance astonishes the guests. One of the officers recognizes him as a participant in pre-war boxing tournaments. The officer proposes to arrange a fight between Tadeusz and Hammer, betting on him, confident in the Pole's victory. The bout begins. Despite his weakness and injuries, Tadeusz deftly dodges his opponent's attacks, although he himself does not strike at first. At some point, the hammer manages to hit the Pole's jaw several times, and Tadeusz falls. However, the referee does not have time to count to 10. Tadeusz gets up again. Now, not only the prisoners are cheering for him, but also some German soldiers shouting his name. In the course of the fight, the hammer smashes Tadeusz's nose, and his face bleeds. But only 2 punches from Tadeusz are enough to send the hammer into a deep knockout. The German visitors count to 10, but their fighter stays down. The referee raises Tadeusz's hand in victory, proclaiming him the champion of Auschwitz. After the fight, Tadeusz is informed of his transfer to another camp. The guests liked his performance so much that they want to organize a similar show at their place. With a swollen face, bruises and bruises, Tadeusz leaves the camp. The prisoners who remained in Auschwitz see him off with grateful glances. A barrier symbolizing the exit from the death camp rises in front of Tadeusz. The last shots show him after the war. He is training children in his own gym. Among the many trophies is a burnt wooden angel, the only thing left from those times, and a photograph of the mass grave of Auschwitz.